Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Daily Podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. It's been another busy week. I feel like I start out every episode by saying it's been busy. Lots going on. But it has been. I've been doing a lot of stuff. A lot of comedy, a lot of other work, a lot of other things going on. I'm gearing up for another trip out of the state, which will be exciting. So yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about today. I guess I'll start off by mentioning, I don't know if you guys are watching the podcast, if you see the video, you may see a little Band-Aid on my finger. I just got that situated after taking a shower, which it's a little embarrassing. I cut myself unintentionally. And it's weird. I do this I feel like as humans, we do this once a year or two, where you are doing something so minuscule and it results in hurting yourself in a way that you didn't think would ever happen. But I was peeling an onion over the trash can. I was getting that outer crusty layer, whatever, off of it, and one of my pinky fingers slipped, and slipped is a weird way to even put it, but I was just trying to, kind of when you're shucking corn, or not even shucking corn, what's a good way to, if you're doing, was it called an Indian burn? I feel like that's probably a term that's no longer in. But if you take somebody's arm when you're a kid and with each hand you go different directions and it hurts their arm or whatever, that's kind of what I was doing with the onion to just kind of get the outer shell off. And so one pinky was going one direction and the other hand was going the opposite direction. And kind of just with the force of it, my fingernail on one pinky went into my other pinky and I just sliced it, which is hilarious. It's dude, I cut onions all the time with knives, with actual weapon sharp objects. Never cut myself. Knock on wood. But as soon as it's just no knife, I just gashed my pinky. I mean, it wasn't the worst, but it's one of those things where, especially with your hand, if you're washing dishes, you're just doing a bunch of stuff with your hands where you're getting it wet and having to dry it off and stuff. It was cut to where I had to wrap it up. Otherwise it'd be tough to heal. And I'd just be getting blood over everything I was doing. But that was obnoxious. So I might have to go out and buy some Band-Aids. I found one Band-Aid in a first aid kit that I had. But after this one comes off, it better be healed. If not, I'm going to CVS, grabbing a 6-pack of Band-Aids and Bud Light. No, I don't think Band-Aids coming. That'd be funny. A 6-pack of Band-Aids, that'd be 4 cents. But yeah, that's what happened most recently. That's a little look into my immediate life in the very moment. Which today, what is today? Sunday, August 20th. It's funny. I did this. I didn't do the same thing, but I cut my hand or my finger a year or two ago. I think I was washing dishes, and I think one of the dishes just had it was a piece of a cup, a glass cup, and I think it had a little chip in it that made a little sharp point, and I cut myself on that. So I was wearing a Band-Aid for a little while, and I tried to joke about this for a little while. It never really became anything, but I think it stands true and is kind of funny, where when you have a Band-Aid on your hand and you shake somebody's hand, people hate that. When they feel somebody else's Band-Aid, it's you can see in their eyes, they're I've got hepatitis now. I don't know why you would greet me formally like that, but that was a real rookie move. So it's funny. I tried to make a joke about that, about how people hate being touched by a Band-Aid, but they love asking you what happened. They're like, don't get near me, but oh my goodness, this must be an incredible story if you have a Band-Aid on a finger. Like, people ask you what happened as if like your finger was cut off. And it's, sometimes it's not even cut. People are just like, I had a wart that I would like to cover up. Thank you for asking me about it. Now I'm even more embarrassed. I tried to hide it, and it just brought more attention to it. That is the funny thing when you try to cover stuff up. Sometimes it brings more attention to it. I remember having that thought in high school, in college. Like I would pick at my face really, really badly sometimes. So it would be like just really messed up looking, just fingernails to the face. I mean, I would do some damage. I'd really get in there. And people obviously are going to ask at that point. It's like, if I just let the pimple be a pimple, people will probably see it, but also they'll be like, that's a pimple. No need to point it out. They know they have it. But when you really go at it, people are like, what happened to your face? And then you have to be like, it was a pimple. I got a little aggressive with it. Okay. Like if that pimple was a human, I might be going to prison for assault. Okay. Thankfully, pimples aren't humans, because boy, would I be in jail. I've really tussled with some pimples in my day. Fortunately, don't have to deal too much with pimples anymore. That is another funny thing, though, too, that as a kid, all these things, and like acne, all this stuff, you go, well, once I hit 22, all this will be gone. And for some people it is. And fortunately, my skin's not too bad. But it doesn't mean that I won't get pimples every night. Like, I think as a kid or a teenager, you just go, well, it'll be gone. It'll all be gone forever. And all I got to do is just age 3 more years, and I'm going to be like happy and healthy. And boy, is that not something they tell you in high school. They go, I guess they don't really tell you much. You kind of just, your future is up to your imagination. And for some reason, my imagination was like, it's going to be good. I'm going to obviously be rich and have perfect skin. And I mean, I'll be taller and like muscular probably. I'll have a home. I'll be like really good at talking to people. Like, I'll never have awkward conversations again. Certainly that won't be a thing. But boy, was I wrong. You hit, I'm 35 now. And you're like, man, that was a weird interaction. Never thought that would be part of my daily life when I was younger. But, yeah, you know what? When you're a kid, you just got to fight it out with some acne sometimes. Sometimes it beats you. Sometimes you beat them. Okay? Sometimes it wants to stay inside, but you really get in there deep and you get that release and you go, Eureka. Okay? I win. And then you go into school the next day and you find out you did not win. Okay? Everybody's staring at you and making fun of you. I picked so badly one time that people were genuinely asking, like they thought I got in like an accident. I tried to make a joke about this as well. Never worked. But I think I had like a couple pimples on my chin, and I just like went at it. And it looked like if I was skateboarding or something and I fell off onto the asphalt and just scraped my entire chin. People were like worried. They're like, oh my gosh, can I help you with anything? I'm like, yeah, you can send some Proactive to my house. If you don't mind, it's very expensive, and I'm running low on my current supply. Proactive, by the way, I don't know if you guys remember that, but I feel like a lot of this, I know for a fact, a lot of this acne medication, it's just money, okay? It's marketing, it's big acne big skincare, whatever, big pharma for skincare. And, when you're a teenager, you you get hormones. That's just what happens. And I mean, some stuff can help probably a little bit, but man, the amount of money you pay for probably the lack of results is not really worth it. I look back on those days, my face was not terrible. Hey, look, let me be fair. My face was not that bad. I certainly got acne and pimples. It wasn't that bad. I made it much worse by picking at it a lot. And then I would pick at it, and then I would wash my face like 5 times a day, and my face was like constantly red and irritated and inflamed, or maybe not inflamed, just dry. And that just made it so much worse. But I remember at one point in college, you know, when you're growing up, you're just self-conscious about everything, especially acne. And I remember I took a round of antibiotics. It wasn't the big one that people, Accutane, I think, was like one that had a lot of lawsuits and a lot of issues. But even still, I took like a just generic antibiotic for a little while. And that seemed to help. But antibiotics are not good long term. It's just not good. I went through a bunch of rounds of antibiotics with Lyme disease, and they're just not good. They just kill your insides, which I guess also kills acne, but it's just not good. I remember taking it, I think, during the summer, maybe in between freshman and sophomore year of college, and I can't remember. I don't think I was a lifeguard that summer, but I played a bunch of golf, so I was outside in the sun all the time, and when you're on antibiotics, you get sunburnt like real easy. I was doing a bunch of stuff that was probably not good for you. So that's always fun to look back and go, well, I did some irreversible damage by doing whatever I did 20 years ago. But that's life. You know what? You just go, let's not do that irreversible damage again if I can help it. But that's where we're at, man. I'm band-aided up. My face is a little clearer now that I'm in my 30s. Life's pretty good. Just took a shower. And, it was nice. Just normal shower. I'll tell you what. The shower I have, it's wonky, man. The faucet, like hot and cold knobs. One of the knobs, the hot knob, is like broken. Or it's like kind of broken. To where when you turn it, it's not just like a smooth turn, hot or less hot, hot or less hot. It's like barely connected, so you have to like really fiddle with it to get it to move. So I swear, every time I take a shower, it takes me like 10 minutes just to get the temperature kind of where I want it. And by that point, it's like, it's time to get out of the shower. So, I've got some beef going on with my shower right now. I'm not confrontational, but I'm thinking about doing something about it. But it's okay. When I was in Central America, they didn't even have hot water. It was just, you just turn the water on. There wasn't hot and cold. It was just on-off knob. And so any sort of hot water is a luxury, and I appreciate that, and I won't complain about it again. Okay, that's a Ben Dailey promise on the podcast here. I'll probably never speak about showers again anyway, so it probably won't be that difficult to not do. But, yeah, it's nice to have hot water when you want to. Although it's very hot outside. It's mid-August, not as much rain, although it has been raining a decent amount here. I don't know what's going on. But the company I work for is based out of California. They were talking on Friday about how a hurricane's coming to California for the first time since 1939. That's pretty wild. I mean, weather's cyclical. It is interesting. Obviously, I think what we're doing with, I'm not a scientist, but I'm sure humans have an effect on changing the climate. Although I think probably the climate changes anyways. If you just look at history, it just goes through these changes, whether humans are around or not. But it is interesting, similar to Graham Hancock, if you guys watched or have read. He's an author and also did a show called Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix. Very good. Very good. You should check it out. Although I will say I just watched an archaeologist debunk a lot of the stuff, and that, it's kind of like, okay, well, are his theories, do they hold any water? I don't know anymore. So it's a bummer when you like really enjoy something and you're like, this person's got, I think this person's onto something, and then you watch something and it's like, oof, maybe they are crazy. I don't know, but I enjoy him very much. But anyways, he's talked about in his show and in his books how humans are a creature or a species with amnesia. And I think that's true. Like all our opinions, everything is just based on like our lifespan. So if a day is like really hot, and we're like, well, I've lived on this earth for 30 years, it's never been this hot, so therefore the world is ending. Again, not saying that, we don't have an effect on it to a certain extent, but also like the hurricane in California, it's like, well, it hasn't happened since 1939. And so it's like, okay, so it's happened, but none of us remember that because most people who were there when that happened are dead now. So it's like, it has happened before, and let's say it happens every 100 years, and this weather is kind of cyclical, and it kind of comes and goes, and we're looking at it through the lens of, well, in my 35 years on this earth, this has never happened. But you're like, the earth is billions of years old. It just goes through these cycles and kind of, it figures it out. So that is a thing that, again, not trying to go down the global warming, climate change, hard opinion path, but I think sometimes we look at the little picture rather than the big picture, and I think the big picture is pretty important to look at when you're talking about stuff like that, where it's like, okay, Earth is 4 billion years old. Humans have been, messing with pollution for, I don't even know how long. When did pollution start? Did pollution start when fires were created? Is that when the first is burnt wood pollution? Or is that just like a dark cloud that, I imagine it is. That must be the first pollution. Or is peeing in a stream, like a caveman who peed in a stream, is that pollution? I wonder if they talked about that back in the day, Some caveman who ate an old apple that had fermented, got a little buzz, peed in the pond. That affected some fish, and there was a whole town meeting about like, this guy's we got to get rid of him because he's messing with the climate, messing with the fish, okay? We're eating fish. They don't just have mercury, they also have ammonia because there's pee in them. You think they talked about that? Could cavemen and women and people talk? That's something I don't know. I'm really getting into a lot of tangents here about things that I have no knowledge on. And you know what? I think that's what makes for a good podcast. Just really rambling about stuff that people on the other end probably know more about, and they get real worked up, and I'm over here like stating opinions about stuff that I'm like, I honestly I'm not even sure what I'm talking about. But if you say it with confidence, you know what? I mean it. It comes off like I mean it from the bottom of my heart. That's what you got to do with jokes. Sometimes you got to like state an opinion that's silly or goofy, and you're like, I don't care at all about this. But you say it as if you care, and it builds more tension. And sometimes it builds bad tension. Sometimes people laugh. Sometimes people get very upset. They go, you meant that in a hateful way? And you're like, well, this is a comedy show. And, I'm pretty sure that part of comedy shows are jokes. But I'm glad some people go to comedy shows to like, be like, well, I actually came here as if this was a college lecture. And I brought my notebook and I was taking notes. And I recognized during your set that you made some errors and that really perturbed me. So thanks for coming out. Those people that do that, thanks for coming out. You guys are the best. And I think I can speak for all comedians. We love you. And you're just like, we just love it when you leave comments, whether it's on comedy shows or on Yelp, because obviously you guys are, big fans of Yelp. And you love to give 3 or less stars. You guys are big fans of that. I think anybody who is on Yelp or doing reviews, if you have a bunch of reviews and if you don't at least have some like 5-star reviews, if you're just that type of person, because there's a lot of these people who just do negative reviews. They're just out there to just feed the world with negativity. If it's a good experience, they don't care about notating that. They gotta get attention and acceptance almost in a way by bad reviews, and then having people or those companies go, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry you had a bad review. We can give you all this free stuff." There's a lot of people who try to do stuff like that. And I think you should be booted off those platforms if you're just yinging but not yanging. What are you doing out there? You got to bring the yin and yang. You can't just one or the other. Yin and yang. Where did that stem from? You guys familiar? That used to be like a popular thing, because isn't the symbol the yin and the yang? It's like the circle with the little kind of squiggle in the middle to represent yin and yang. If it is, I could be talking just total nonsense right now, but I'm pretty sure that was the symbol for it, which was a popular symbol in like middle school and high school when people doodled, when they scribbled in their notebook little drawings. That, and then the 3DS, if you guys remember that, where you do the little 3 lines and then under it 3 lines, and then you like connect dots and make like kind of a 3D letter S. Oh boy. If you didn't know how to draw stuff good, and I definitely fit under that category, you at least do a 3DS and you go, you know what? I'm still worthy as a person. I can do a 3DS. I can do a 2D and a 3DS. So if anybody's looking through my notebook, they'll know. Okay, I got notes on history and art. Anyways, I have gone in so many directions. This might be the first time I've lost everybody for sure. That's okay though. It's been exciting this last week. Here's another thing I've been doing. You can't see it on camera, but I've got my guitar out in the middle here, my acoustic guitar. I haven't played that in a long time. Used to be very into guitar, and just recently I've had an urge to get back into it. One of my comic buddies, Ethan Everhart, he's got a show he's doing where it's like a combination of doing jokes and then also performing a song. He's in a band, so like a comic will do a set, and then they'll follow that up, I think, with playing a song of their choice, where him and his band will learn the song, and then you'll learn it with them, and then you'll either sing or play or whatever you do to contribute. And so that in unison with or combined with listening to more Red Hot Chili Peppers, John Frusciante, who was a big influence of me learning guitar, playing guitar, learning songs, has got me really... I've been looking into new guitars to buy. I think I might buy an electric and start practicing a little bit. I've been using OfferUp. You guys ever use that? It's my first time using it. It's like an app, like a Craigslist or whatever. People put stuff for sale. But here's the deal. I'll tell you this. So what you do, people put an offer up. They list an item. They put an amount. So for example, let's just say electric guitar, $100. And then me or whoever is looking through this stuff, you can send an offer. So if it's $100, I could offer $100, or I could change it and go, I'll offer you 80. And I've done this on a couple. So it sends like, I think somebody had it listed for 100. I said 80. Somebody said 150 for another guitar. I said 125. And nobody's responding. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but multiple days ago. I sent these like things. I figured if they didn't want to accept the offer, it'd just be like, you've been denied, which is fine. But I've got nothing. It's just like, they're just leaving me on unread. And so now I'm like, well, I would like to get a guitar. And if I don't have luck on this app, then maybe I'll just go buy a new one at a music store. But this limbo period, I don't like. It's like, let me know, yay or nay. It's fine if it's nay, okay? But that's what I'm going through with that. Would love to get some practice back under my belt and play a little bit. It's one of those things where you're like, should I impulse buy and spend $300 on, a guitar, an amp, headphones, so I don't, because I'm in an apartment complex and you don't want to be too loud, or should I wait it out? And will this urge to get back into guitar pass in 3 days? I don't know. I would like to play. I don't think it's just an immediate urge, but maybe waiting a few more days may be good for me to kind of think about it and maybe just get a cheaper guitar rather than, you get those thoughts. You go, okay, it's in my head. I want to get a new guitar. And then you just start looking through stuff. And then at a certain point, you're like, I'm going to buy $1,000 guitar and become Slash. Okay. I'm going to become Eric Clapton tonight. You know what? Step 1, bought the guitar. Are there even any more steps I need to go through to become like one of the best guitar players ever? Probably not. I mean, as long as it says Gibson or Fender or like a big brand, I'm pretty much, that's pretty much what it is. Just buy a good guitar and you'll become famous. Obviously, that's not what it is, so we'll see. I'll keep you updated. Keep you guys updated on that. Speaking of updates, I think last time I was talking about, I'll start telling you guys about what I've been up to last week comedy-wise. It's been pretty busy. And I think last week I did the podcast right before doing a show that I produced in Washington Park area, which that's 2 shows in the last like 2 weeks that have been produced in Wash Park area, which I think is a good area, kind of an untapped area. But I did it. It was a Sunday show at a restaurant, kind of a nicer restaurant that has like a side room that's kind of disconnected and filled out. If it were filled out, you get probably 40 people. Honestly, it's a very good space for a show. But boy, will I tell you what, that was hands down the worst show I've ever produced. I mean, it was chaos. It was so chaotic, it was funny, to be honest. But when you're producing shows, that's not what you're aiming for. I dumped quite a bit of money into the show and basically got next to no return. There was about 10 people who showed up. I put like $150 into advertising. It was a big swing and a miss. And here's why it was so chaotic. I'm not kidding you. Every single person in the crowd, it's like, have you guys ever seen a comedy show before? They were just yelling out. I mean, I even said this to them at one point. I was like, this does not feel like a comedy show. This feels like a PTA meeting where the parents in the crowd are very upset and vocal. Where it's like, well, I'm here to say a couple things and you guys just keep yelling. And when that happens, comedy, it doesn't work. Comedy, it's very much like you need the crowd to, it's a very, what's the word? Self-indulgent, like, hey, I want the attention type thing. That's what it is. But if you're going to participate and go see a show or whatever, it really hinges on the fact that you need the crowd to be quiet, to listen. It's all about saying things, the cadence, the timing, all that stuff. And I I literally got on stage and I go, "Hey everybody, my name is Ben Dailey. I'm going to be your host this evening." And some dude yelled out, he goes, "Bend over." I was 7 words into the night. And when he said that, I go, "Oh, this is going to be a nightmare. This is going to stink." And I mean, there was no point in doing jokes. I mean, I was kind of trying to do some jokes, but they were just yelling out. Even when you did punchlines, if you could get to the punchlines without them interrupting, they weren't even really laughing. It's just one of those crowds where they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good one." They're just yelling out affirmations or not affirmation, whatever the opposite of affirmations is, negative things or whatever. I mean, it was terrible. Which was it was kind of funny though too, because the owner's wife was in the crowd with a big group of people, and she said afterwards, she was like, I think that was really good. And I was like, good Lord, you thought that was good? I mean, that was a nightmare. Which, it's funny that it kind of worked in a way. I mean, it was terrible, but it kind of worked in the sense that everybody in the crowd was doing this. So everybody was just yelling out. They wanted to participate. It was a nightmare in that sense, but at least everybody was doing that. If there were a couple people who were genuinely like, I just want to see the show, and everybody's interrupting, then it makes it terrible for them. So the people actually ruin the show for them. But because everybody was horrible in that sense, it was like, well, everybody, I guess, got what they wanted. They wanted to participate, and they did. But, yeah, moving forward, I think that'll be tough to, even if it is bad like that, it'll be tough to, have basically everybody kind of enjoy it. Because, you know, usually some people are going to a comedy show to watch a comedy show, not to see chaos like that. And it's also funny, too, because thankfully all the comics I had on the lineup, very funny, very good stage presence, confident on stage, have dealt with shows probably like this. So they were able to handle it. But boy, if it was like a newer comic, I mean, that would literally be a nightmare story where you have that memory of like, yeah, I got eaten alive. Yeah. So that's how that went. We'll see. I think the owner wants to do another one, and I think I'm going to change the formula up quite a bit. And we'll see how that works out. But that was last Sunday. And then kind of Monday through Wednesday, I went out to some open mics. I'm working through some new stuff, which feels good. I mean, I've been working through some new stuff, and none of it incredible, but I feel like I'm consistently working through new stuff. And it's been like, okay. And little by little, I'm whittling down, getting the best parts out of them, connecting things, and really feel like I'm just adding material to the arsenal. Whether it's, it's probably not a material, but either way, I feel very productive in that sense, getting through new material and just doing the best I can to sell that material. Not everything's going to be great, but if you can make a joke a lot better if you memorize it, you have it down, you deliver it in the way that you want to deliver it confidently. A big thing for me is being in the moment, being kind of silly and fun with it to really sell stuff to make it as good as it possibly can be. So I think it's important to be able to do that with jokes. Every joke, like I said, is not going to be a great joke, but you still got to sell it like it is a good joke. So I've been working through that. Really feel like the last couple of months I've been developing a lot of material. So I'm excited about that. It feels like it's been a minute since I've come up with a joke where I'm like, this is my new close. Like, this is such a good joke, which that's what happens. It's when you're talking about your best joke, your one joke, and you're like, well, I've written hundreds of jokes. It's tough to get that spot again and take over that spot with best joke. But the more you write, the better chance you have of one of those coming along, and that's just part of the process. So looking forward to continuing to work through material and just whittle it down, make it better and better. I've got, like I said, I'll be going out of town next week, so I'll be able to use some of the newer stuff in front of hopefully some consistent crowds 3 or 4 nights in a row to really get good feedback on, hey, is this something or is this not anything? Yeah, so that'll be good to get that feedback, especially out of state, different clubs, different shows. So I'll keep you updated on that as well. But that was Monday through Wednesday, like I said, at open mics, working through some new material. And then Thursday through Saturday, had some shows, which were very fun. I hosted all these, so it's good. I'm getting back to kind of hosting a little bit more, being able to flex that muscle. It feels good to gain some confidence in hosting with the diet stuff that I've been doing. I've felt a lot more in the moment, a lot more comfortable, a lot more clarity, and less anxiety, which has been great. That's super important, and just feeling good in general, but especially with comedy and especially with hosting. You know, with hosting, you got to go out there and you got to be a real person. You got to be in the moment, and you can't show fear, or you don't want to show fear. So yeah, Thursday and Saturday, I did Hotel Boulderado in Boulder. Great shows there. It's basically a club there called Comic Sense in like the basement of Hotel Boulderado. And it's such an awesome room. It's like a basement, tiny room. I mean, it looks like a little tiny New York room, stone around, fills out. Maybe 50 people is kind of the max amount that can get in there. Thursday night, Craig Ferguson was actually playing the same night. Big comic, used to do like a late night show. He was playing in Boulder, right across the street at a theater, so I think that affected ticket sales a little bit, I imagine. But there were about 12 people, but it's such a small room. 12 people is like a very intimate, it fills out kind of the first row, and just a very intimate spot. And also helps to make it like it's a good exercise to do shows like that, especially from the host spot, where you're like, I cannot autopilot this. I can't just do the jokes and like stare off into the abyss. Like, you have to look people in the eyes. I mean, I'm 2 or 3 feet away from these people. You have to look them in the eyes. If not, they know that you're looking at nobody. And then that just, people are like, this is a robot. This is a crazy person. So it forces you into that. And I think that's a good exercise to just develop as a comic in general, getting comfortable in situations like that. But that was a fun show. It was a smaller crowd, but still fun. And then I also did Saturday, hosted 2 shows, 6 and 7:30. So last night was there as well. The first show was about the same size as Thursday, 10 or 12 people. Also very fun, just being in the moment and really forcing myself to get into bits in a more conversational, natural way, which is probably the way to do it, or the way you want to do it anyways. The more natural, the better. So it felt good to do that. And then the late show was, I think, sold out. I mean, there's probably 50 people. And that was very fun as well. So always nice to go do shows like that where you can get multiple sets in a night or multiple sets in a weekend. Very fun club. Guy who runs it, very nice. Jesse, very, very cool guy. But it's cool. There's multiple rooms like that. It's very cool to have not just like Comedy Works or these bigger clubs, but you've got Comic Sense in Boulder, shows every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The Comedy Lounge in Denver, which is 5 shows, Friday and Saturday every weekend. Denver Comedy Underground in Denver, I think it's 4 shows. They might do Thursday shows as well. And those are, so they're clubs, but more on an alt scale, where you have, comics like in my position have more accessibility to get in versus like a Comedy Works or a bigger club. Those are just, tougher to get time at. So it's cool to get exposure and time, and all the owners are comics as well for the 3 that I just mentioned, which makes, comics who run shows usually run them better. And they're just all cool people as well, so that's very cool. On Friday, I hosted a show, guest hosted for another comic buddy in Lakewood at Locust Cider. And man, it's a cider place. And man, I tell you what, that room, it's like a magical. The crowd is just so good. It's kind of crazy how good it is. Sometimes with comedy, it's interesting because every crowd is different, but sometimes you have rooms that are like consistently good. Sometimes you have rooms that you're like, this should be good, but for some reason it's like almost always bad. I don't know why. And it's always incredible to have a room where just every crowd that comes is just so good. Especially for like an indie show. Like if it's a comedy club, and it's more official and it's a great tight setup, that makes a little more sense. But for like a cidery or a brewery show or something, and it's a free show as well. So like people could be in there and be like, I'm not interested in this. And that makes it a lot harder to be like a great show. But the crowd was incredible. I mean, it's just one of those where you're like, you guys are laughing too much. Everybody on the show just destroyed. Again, I hosted that one. Fun to host shows that are good and see everybody do well. And I'm not delusional to think like, oh, well, everybody did well because I'm such a good host. But it does feel good to set the show up and then see the momentum continue and feel like a little piece of hosting and kind of keeping the show going. Again, the show didn't go well because of me, but it's nice to be kind of a part of that and see everybody do well. So that was a very fun time. Locust Cider. They another comic buddy, one of the last times I was there, Ethan, again, the guy who I was talking about earlier, his car got stolen there, which we talked about, I think on a podcast I did with him months ago. But so every time I go there, I'm like, better make sure I lock up and hopefully nobody breaks my window and steals my car. But I drive a stick shift, so I'm not as worried about that. But it's also funny too because it's in Belmar in Lakewood, and if you're not familiar with that area, it's like a very gentrified, up and coming, kind of like shopping mall area, like a very fancy place. So to have people stealing cars is kind of funny, but I guess also they call it. Apparently, Lakewood has a nickname, Lake Hood. So I don't know. I haven't spent enough time there to know. It seems nice there, but maybe it's gentrified and everywhere around it is not as nice. Either way, it was very fun, and I'm excited for this next week coming up. Like I said, I'm going to be going to Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, doing multiple clubs, and then the following week, first week of September, I will be in Montana. I'm going to be driving up there, working remotely up there throughout the week, but doing a festival up there. First time going to be performing in Montana. Excited for the shows up there. Excited to do the club, meet people on the festival there. And then the end of the month, I'm doing the Colorado Springs Comedy Festival down at Looney's, which will be fun. And then the week after that, I'll be doing the Fountain City Comedy Festival out in Kansas City. I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if they've made the announcement yet on that. If they haven't, don't tell anybody. If they have, I'm on it. Nobody's going to make it through this whole podcast to hear this anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. But very excited about that stuff coming up. Little update before I end the episode here, a little update on diet stuff, because I've talked a lot about diet and how since mid-June, I've eaten as healthy as I've ever eaten in my life, like zero processed food, just basically meat, vegetables. I've been doing some rice and quinoa, and over this last week, I think I realized I don't want to do that anymore. I notice the carbs do affect my energy level. I just don't feel good on it. I don't feel as mentally clear. So I think I'm going to go even deeper and just do what I usually do is like 80-20 beef. I'll do veggies like cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, and avocado. And then maybe like apple and peanut butter is kind of like my sweet go-to thing. The difficulty is getting enough calories, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get as many calories. If any nutritionists are listening, let me know. What can I do to get more calories that fit within the realm of no carbs, no processed food? But also recently, I was looking into and may try to give this a go. And I would be curious to know if any of you all have given this a go or just your thoughts in general. But the carnivore diet, I think I might try to do that. If you're not familiar, carnivore diet is literally just like meat. I used to think it was just like beef or like red meat, but apparently I think it's like meat of any sort or kind. And then I think eggs and dairy may be acceptable in there, but it's like no vegetables. It's just meat and I guess egg and dairy. I don't know that I would want to do too much dairy. Dairy, I don't know. It doesn't affect me that much, but I feel like it does a little bit. But a couple question marks I have is how expensive is it going to be? Just meat. I mean, that's going to be very expensive. It feels like. And I guess two, well, I guess my body will probably adjust. It's mostly just the question of how expensive will it be? And I'll have to do some more research as far as like what are the best things to do, because healthy fats are super important. I mean, I even feel that now. That's why I get the 80-20 beef instead of the 90-10, because it's like my body, I can feel that my body needs the fat. If I'm not having carbs, if I'm not having, I guess mostly carbs, but I'm not filling it with that to use as fuel, so I can tell that my body needs the fats for the fuel. So it's figuring out like what meats and what things I can have that fill those voids. So if you guys have any experience with that, with carnivore diet, if you've ever if you have any experience, wow, I'm like slurring through. If you've ever experimented with not only carnivore diet, but any diet, I would love to hear. Leave a comment on the YouTubes via Spotify. You can comment right now if you're listening on Spotify. Just comment. Let me know. What diet have you done? Did you like it? Any thoughts on carnivore or any others? Recommendations? Meals that you like to eat? What is your current diet? Maybe it's just, nothing. Maybe it's just a bunch of ice cream and cake and, you know what? Just you having fun with it. That's okay too. But let me know. I would love to hear. With that said, I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, please comment. Please leave a comment, question, anything. I've asked this probably the last 10 episodes. Nobody's said anything except Peter. Peter commented, and I appreciate that, Peter. But no, thanks again for hanging out and listening, and I'll see you guys again next week.